My volume up now. Okay, Susan Michelle. So glad to see you. This mic is all yours.
Hi, this is Susan Michel. I am here in Western Massachusetts. It is great to be here as always. I am the author of Surrender to Joy, From Suicide to Serenity. I teach the transformational truth of A Course in Miracles that we are here to talk about, that I have been studying for 34 years now. And when I embody the principles of what I know to be true, I feel the peace, love, joy, and happiness of God. However, this world is challenging. So I tend to vacillate between the truth and the illusion. A Course in Miracles starts out, nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. And what that means is only the love is real. So God created us. We did not create ourselves. God created us to experience his joy. And my introduction starts out, my passion is God. He is love and joy and beauty. He is all that is good in the world. Everything else is our own miscreation. When we are filled with joy, we are connected to God. When we are not joyful, we have lost our connection to all that is real. This is my message. It can be clarified with three simple words: surrender to joy. There is nothing to find. All we need to do is surrender. And in so many ways, A Course in Miracles is about living from the inside out. The world teaches us that once we make the money, once we meet that soulmate, once we get whatever it is we think we need from the world, we will feel complete. A Course in Miracles says no. Why? Because there is no world. That external world is nothing more than a reflection of an internal condition. All thoughts create form on some level. So we are constantly creating our own reality. We are constantly creating our own experiences in the world. And we are never a victim. It's we are never ever a victim of circumstances. There is something to be learned from everything that happens to us in life. And it's never about blame. It's never about judgment. It's interesting how the ego works. Either we blame the other person for victimizing us, or I've taken that the other way too. We blame ourselves for creating this challenging situation. But Course in Miracles says no, no blame, no judgment. How do we get out of hell? Forgive. Forgiveness is the way out of hell. Forgiving them or forgiving me, it's the same thing. Hi, Zoma, how are you? So, I watched Collateral Beauty last night based on Zolma's strong recommendation. My husband and I rented it on Prime Video for $2.99, and it was quite worth it. It's an amazing movie. The interesting thing about that is I did see that movie. I believe it came out in 2016. And I have seen that movie before. When I watched it this time, though, based on Zulma's recommendation, I really started searching for more Course in Miracles meanings, and I found them. I found all the Course in Miracles meanings. So both my husband and I really experienced a lot of aha moments in that movie. There's so much to say about that. So I'm glad you're here, Zulma. It's so great to see you. You look so beautiful.
Thank
Um,
you.
it started out, and I love Will Smith. I think Will Smith has so much depth to him because a lot of his movies reflect that depth. He starts out before the tragedy that brought him into darkness. He starts out saying the three most important things are time, death, and love. And then after the tragedy, he lost his daughter. He writes letters to time, death, and love. And it brought so many insights for me uh, in terms of time. I mean, Course in Miracles is very clear that there is no time. We are already home. We are already awakened. The purpose of time as we experience it on this earthly plane is to learn lessons. But in reality, time does not exist. And when I heard that in the movie, I really started to think about that because I think of so many parts of my life. I have good chapters in my life, good years, good times, and then I have bad chapters in my life, bad years, bad times. But what if there is no time? What if I'm already awakened? What if I'm with God right here, right now? I did get an amazing aha moment in the movie when I heard that phrase from the actor that portrayed time, because it's one thing to hear it, but it's another thing to embody that concept. What if we're already home? Right, Soma?
Yes, already here, and as you said when you started, that we're constantly making this story up. We're making a story up that we're not. That we're not. We think that we're in the we have made this foreign place that we call the world, and when all the time we're already where we're supposed to be, but we're in fantasy, we're in this illusion that it's not supposed to be this way. It's and our real self knows that it's not supposed to be, well, this way. We know that this suffering is not real. We know it instinctively. Otherwise we wouldn't constantly be trying to find our way out of this suffering, out of this pain, as Will Smith did with the letters. I wasn't going to say too much, tell the whole plot of the movie, but yeah, there were a few things that really came out. But I'll let you go ahead. We'll come back to that.
Yeah. Yeah. I I Googled the movie because I really want to, I don't know, I guess explore the meanings and the lessons from the movie. And what I read on Google, from pain, there can come something beautiful. I mean, it's interesting because Course in Miracles is always telling us that the only thing that's real is the love. When we're in the midst of pain, we can't hear God because we're blocking his voice. And that's true. I can't hear God's voice when I'm in the midst of pain. However, I also do believe that from pain there can come something beautiful. It's something about owning the pain that helps me to realize that it has no power over me. And then here it says, again on Google, every action comes some kind of consequence. on that there is a light in every darkness. The movie highlights the importance of recognizing these beautiful moments in life as they bring purpose and meaning to our existence. Yeah,
And,
I mean, A Course in Miracles is a non-dualistic thought system. However, we do live in a world of duality. So I guess by allowing my darkness to come to the light, I can find the peace, love, joy on the other side of it.
three
So
three important things that were said in the movie. Love said, regardless of what's going on, I've been there the whole time. Even when this was happening, when that was happening, I've always been there. The Course says that it's either an extension of love or a call for love. It is all love. So that's what she said in love. Time said that, my purpose, you're wasting me. There's so many wonderful things that you can be doing with me, but instead you're moping, you're groping, you're sighing, you're reflecting on what you wish you had, as opposed to appreciating and accepting what you have. That's what Time said. And death, which was interesting too, at the one of without telling the plot of the story, at the end she said to the gentleman, you know um that nothing ever really dies if you look at it truly. Nothing ever really dies. And that was a very powerful line, because the truth is there is no death. Things change, they transform, we finish one situation, we go into another situation, we come out of that situation with another one. We can call that the death of one thing and the birth of something else, but it's really, we're just moving right along. It's eternity. It's eternity. And part of our problem is that gentleman that she spoke to, that spoke to, he was trying too hard to hide what was going on in his life, when all the time it was as clear as day. It was as clear as day to the people that mattered to him. It was as clear as day what was happening in his life. And he was trying so hard. He was causing himself more pain by trying to hide what was happening in what was occurring in his life, when all the time, it was being seen. Those were some three important things. I managed, I don't remember, I don't know how I got it, but I managed to get a copy of the transcript, the actual transcript of the movie. And one of the things that you talk about with Will Smith at the beginning, he asked the question, what is your why? He says, we are here to connect. That life is about people. Now he's using the word advertising. I just took that word out. Life is about people, about illuminating how our, and the movie says products, but I looked at that word by the synonymous with where life is about people, about illuminating how our results, effects, and outcomes, and our services, that is our helps and assistances, will improve people's lives. And isn't that what we're all about? We are each other's saviors. That's what we come here for. That is what we come here for. And then he says, love, time, and death. These three abstractions connect every single human being on earth. Everything that we covet, everything that we fear not having, everything that we ultimately end up buying, is because at the end of the day, we long for love, we wish to have more time, and we fear death. That was very powerful right at the beginning of the movie, and it took, and I went right to the Course with it. Yes, we all seem to be in body connected by these things, but we are afraid of death. We think that, oh my God, that's the end of me. That's the end of me. We long for love, and instead of looking in for it, seeking first the kingdom where it's actually coming from, we're seeking outside. And the Course tells us in chapter 29, seek not outside yourself. It talks about the Antichrist, which are idols, everything out there, looking out there for what we think is going to satisfy, and it doesn't. And then have using the time that we have. The Course says that the purpose of time is to realize that there is no time. It really is no time. It's to bring ourselves to the awareness that we are already complete, that we are already whole, that we already have everything that we need. But in the story, he was pointing out to the fact that that person in his life that that he felt he had lost, that was his reason for living. And he was taught that that was not the case. All right, I'm talking too much. This is your hour, not mine. Go ahead.
No, no, I want you to talk. I want you to talk. Um, yeah, I mean, when it comes to time, when we can, those moments that we forget about time are the moments that we feel the most connected to ourselves and the most connected to God and the most connected to our brother. Those periods that are out of time, you know, when we're fully in the present moment, right here, right now, that's when we feel the most alive, when we're not aware of time, you know, when we're enjoying the beautiful sunset, or when we're really connecting to another person and listening to what they're saying, and just being completely like, when I'm fully present in the moment and I let go of time completely, that is when I feel the most alive. And that's when I'm connected to source energy. That's when I'm feeling the unconditional love, which is who and what I am. So time in the movie and time in my life, you know, it's meant to be used constructively. However, when I can completely forget about time, it's when I feel the most alive. And I'm kind of, I've noticed when I'm looking to my at my talks afterwards, when I'm really thinking, I'm not looking at you, I'm looking up, and I'm remembering. But I can remember just many beautiful time periods in my life, and in every single magical moment, I completely forgot about time. I wasn't watching the clock. I was just fully present in the moment, you know. And then death, we do fear death. Everybody fears death because, or most people do anyway, maybe enlightened masters don't, but most of us fear death because death is unknown territory. You know, that's what we all protect ourselves against. But if you see death from a Course in Miracles perspective, there is no death. Death is when we block ourselves off from God. I mean, when we block ourselves off from God's love and we're living in fear, we're living in anxiety, you know, that's when we die. But in terms of death, you know, leaving our body, there's intellectually, I know there is no death because the body is not real. So there's nothing to fear. I think enlightened masters know that. Um, and then the third attribute, the third actor in that movie Collateral Beauty, was love. I mean, love is in everything. I mean, I'm giving away the movie, not you, Zoma, but and again, this was my second time watching the movie, but Will Smith thought that his love came from loving his daughter, and his love did come from loving his daughter. Love was in his daughter, but that love was something in him. It doesn't go away when the daughter leaves her body. When that person we love leaves this world, the love doesn't go away. The love is still there. In fact, they don't go away. Their body might not be there anymore, but their spirit lives forever. You know, I think of people in my own life that have passed, my mother, my father. Um, you know, at the nursing home that I work, people are always passing, but their body disappears, but the essence of who they are lives on forever. So there's nothing to fear when it comes to death. And actually, when we do start fearing something. I mean, Course in Miracles acronym, false evidence appearing real, the acronym that Zolma uses, that she gives credit to her friend. What is that acronym that your friend uses, Zolma?
Kim Williams, she says false evaluation affecting reality. False evaluations affecting reality. And I thought that's just perfect. It really is perfect. What you were saying about death, the fact is that there is really no death. There's change. There's transition. Because for something to die, that means it goes away completely. And where's it going to go? It's all in God. It's still all in God. Even if you talk about the body as the body, let's talk about the body, which um, funeral directors call the remains. In 1985, when my uncle had made his transition, the funeral director referred to the remains, and I grabbed hold of that, and I thought, you know what? What's that saying? Like the leftovers. The body is just the leftovers, because the essence of what that body contained. Remember, we are a communication device. This is just a vessel. The essence of what we are can't die. Let's use science. I mean, Einstein says we're talking about energy here. It's all energy. It's all vibrational frequencies and all that kind of stuff. It was never born, and it can't die. So what is there to fear? Okay, fear of the unknown. The next minute, a minute from now, 10 seconds from now is the unknown. I don't know. A minute from now, I have no idea what my sentence is going to be after I finish this one. It's all the unknown. So we're actually fearing nothing. We're making up stories. And we're using our own stories to become afraid of them. Because the fact is that life is continuing. We talk about, when we die, which isn't going to happen, but we're afraid of that. But we really don't know. We really don't know anything about the future. We know nothing about the future, whether we're in the body or whether we're not. We think that because we're in the body that we know the future. And we think that when we're no longer in the body, that we don't, and therefore we have something to be afraid of. The fact is, either way, we don't know what's next. We don't know. The screen could go off, the computer could burn out, I could make my transition or have a heart attack, and anything can happen. And so I'm wasting my time, wasting my now by being afraid of a period of time that I don't even know, that I know nothing of. So I'm going to choose joy in this moment. It's kind of like what your book says. I'm going to choose to not die. Focus on, be afraid of the death, and go from the suicide. That's killing myself. That's really killing myself. I'm going from that suicide and choosing to be in the joy.
Today's lesson is lesson number 26. And, I read it. I started my day with it. I listened to some Course in Miracles teachers interpret it. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. So anytime, and I thought of that because it's very similar to what I heard you just say, Zoma. Anytime that we are fearing anything at all, we are blocking the words of our higher self. We are blocking God's words. And it's very powerful. I really think if you go deep into any one lesson in the workbook for students, out of 365 lessons, you can find your way home. You can find God's peace, love, joy, and happiness. My attack thoughts are attacking my invulnerability. So anytime I'm afraid that there is going to be a negative outcome, anytime I'm afraid of anything at all, I'm not able to hear God speak to me. I'm not able to hear the clarity and wisdom of my soul. I took a yoga class yesterday, and I love the words of the yoga teachers, because it's very metaphysical. It's not Course in Miracles per se. They don't mention the words Course in Miracles, but what I hear is very analogous to everything that Course in Miracles teaches. And what this particular yoga teacher said is he talked about finding that peace, love, and clarity within, and then going into the chaos of the world, but coming from the clarity of your soul, because that's the goal of a good yoga class is to through, I guess, all this. And I'm not a good yoga. I'm very in shape because I work out all the time, but yoga is very, very challenging for me. I'm not flexible at all. But I mean, because of all the stretching you do with your body, it brings you to a place of inner peace. And at the end of the yoga class, you do this chant, and then you end with Namaste. The Christ in me acknowledges the Christ in you, but you end in a place of peace. And so what the goal is to take that peace and not avoid the world, but go out into the world and don't allow all the negativity to affect you. It's love the people and situations that are coming from a place of fear. And I believe that's what a miracle is all about. To become a conduit for a miracle, we have to allow our mind to be at peace. And that's how we can hear God. And then when God puts us in a challenging situation, instead of reacting from a place of fear, the way most people do, what you do is you see through the chaos and you respond from a place of love and clarity. And that's a miracle. And that's beautiful.
And if you look at review 1, which is right after lesson 50, you will basically see what you just said. I'm going to read it so you can take your time to find. In paragraph 4, it says, you will need this is review 1, right after lesson 50. You will need your learning most in situations that appear to be upsetting rather than in those that already seem to be calm and quiet. Wait a minute. Alexa, Echo, stop. Go, stop. I'm going to go back up one sentence. It says, you will learn to, it is necessary that you learn to require no special settings in which to apply what you have learned. You will need your learning most in situations that appear to be upsetting rather than in those that already seem to be calm and quiet. The purpose of your learning is to enable you to bring the quiet with you and to heal distress and turmoil. This is not done by avoiding them and seeking a haven of isolation for yourself. You will yet learn that peace is part of you and requires only that you be there to embrace any situation in which you are. And finally, you will learn that there is no limit to where you are, so that your peace is everywhere as you are. And that's basically what you just said. That's exactly what you just said. It's not, if I just sit home and I can, I know that, if I have to go to the store and it's raining and storming outside, yes, I can stay dry by staying in the house. I can do that. But I can also take an umbrella out there with me. I can also put on some galoshes. I can also put on a raincoat. And I can't avoid it. I can't avoid life because then I'm saying that I'm afraid of it. In the story, in the movie, they talked about love, time, and death, but in all 3 cases, there was fear involved. They said fear of death, but there was fear of love. He was afraid to love again. He was afraid that loving was going to hurt him. He was, the one man. He was afraid that by expressing his love, that he was going to that he had lost a person in his life. That was what Ed Norton in his situation. And in the case of time, she was afraid that she had run out of time, that she was afraid that she had waited too long to try to do what she wanted to do. And then talking about the fear of death. But in all three cases, they were illusory. First of all, they were blocking the gift of love, the gift of time, and the gift of transition, which then brought on the collateral beauty for the woman who worked in the center, the woman who worked in the center, that the person that the grief counselor who this is without telling the story, you understand. The grief counselor when he came to the place where they were having the sessions, that's where the beauty is. When I think about, and we talked about this, when I think about my mother, I think about joyful times. I think about laughter. I think about when I used to come home and she would be at the top of the steps looking at me over the banister. Sometimes, at first, I would come in and I would stand at the bottom of the steps and I would sob initially. Oh, she's not here to do that. This, and the other. And now I stand at the bottom of the steps sometimes and I look up and I smile, remembering when my mother used to just be there, looking at me over the banister. And in here, she still stands there looking at me over the banister. I get to keep that with me. But that's because I'm choosing not to block it. I'm choosing to love. I'm choosing to stay open. I'm choosing to keep this to be in a place of extension, which was not the case in this movie. They all were afraid. Fear is it. Perfect love casts out fear. It's in the beginning of the chorus. It's straight out of the Bible. Perfect love casts out fear. And it's the love that was preventing them from expressing and feeling, the three of them, what was really going on within. But yeah, review one right after lesson 50.
I have that paragraph highlighted in my book, so it obviously made a real impression on me. I love the fact that you went right there, Zulma,
Yeah,
because
starting in paragraph 4. We don't need it when everything is kumbaya. We need it in the times. It's when things are really, giving us a hard way to go, or seemingly giving us a hard way to go, and we think that, that we're guilty or they are. That's the time when we need it. At the time when we're feeling fear, that's the time when we need it. At the time when things just don't seem to be going the way we think they should, and that's my S word. That's my S word. We're always shoulding on stuff. We're too full of should. We need to keep our should to ourselves. That's the famous S word. When we think that things aren't going as they should, that's the time to remember that we are the peace. That's the time to remember that we are everything, that we have everything. That's the time to remember. That's the time for me to look. It's just stop. My favorite first word. That's stop. To stop my mind from stop my thoughts from taking me into places that aren't real. And that's how I bring myself. That's how I find my peace. Find it again. Technically, hold the peace. The peace is already there. And Dove writes, the message of the crucifixion is perfectly clear. Yes, teach only love, for that is what you are. Hi, Dove. Good to see you.
yeah, Dove and Karen too. Karen wrote something in the chat room, a couple things in the chat room.
Okay.
What you just said was her favorite. It is a daily practice. Yeah, Karen or Dove, if you have anything to say, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Because I learned so much from other Course in Miracles students and teachers.
Hi, Susan. It's nice to meet you. I'm not on camera today. I'm having a
That,
little back trouble. I'm just laying on my heating pad. But Zuma's a good friend of mine, and I love Dove and Zuma both.
Hi, Karen.
She's my Zuma. Yeah, I've been listening to you like a few times, and I really love your sharing. And
thanks.
yeah, I just thought maybe I would join just to listen, but since you invited me to share, I bring the peace with me wherever I go. I notice it. I notice when I'm not at peace. And I share this a lot. My daily practice is lesson 5 and 34. Lesson 5 is I am never upset for the reason I think, because I think I'm upset because of what my body's going through right now. But it's not that. It's because I'm choosing to really look at it through the eyes of conflict. I'm looking at it through the belief in the body that I am this body and that it is the cause. And then lesson 34 is, but I could see peace instead of this. I could be at peace. And that's in every single situation I do. I bring the quiet with me. And I notice when I'm not. And I think that's a beautiful practice because that's what we are. Teach only love, teach only peace. Peace is what you are. To have peace, teach peace, to learn it. So peace is very important to me today. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Everything, right? Everything is either love or a call for love. And it's really important to remember that, right? Teach only peace, because that is what you are. I was listening to, again, A Course in Miracles interpretation of lesson 26 this morning, and they were talking about the ego's definition of forgiveness as opposed to what forgiveness truly is. I mean, the ego says, when I see the guilt in someone else, I can deflect the guilt in me. I mean, think about that. I mean, that is what I was taught growing up. If I can see someone else is guilty and see them as the bad guy, I can see the innocence, feel the innocence within me. But if you think of how whacked out that is, because when I'm seeing the guilt in someone else, I'm feeling that guilt in me. Course in Miracles is saying, no, the only way we can embody the innocence within us is when we acknowledge the innocence in our brothers. So it's kind of like a constant challenge to look at the world like that, because I notice if I'm not aware, I I tend to see the shortcomings in other people. But when I'm aware and I start like adhering to the Course in Miracles principles, and I start seeing the good in other people, I start acknowledging the innocence in other people, then I can really feel the truth of who I am. So it's simple. A Course in Miracles is such a simple truth. It says it can't teach us the meaning of love because love is who and what we are. The only thing it can do is it can help us identify the blocks to love so we can be aware when we're out of sync with who we really are. A Course in Miracles is really simple. I mean, it feels good to connect to the truth of who we are. It's not easy because the world doesn't teach that. The world is run on the egoic thought system. So it's just important for me to focus on the innocence in my brother. I have this little I got a happiness bracelet from a friend of mine after the yoga class yesterday. And it's funny because you can find truth in all things, in all plaques. She has the 7 steps to happiness. So I wear my happiness bracelet and I remember the 7 steps to happiness. She says here, think less, feel more. Frown less, smile more. Talk less, listen more. How many of us really listen to what other people are saying? I know here in the Course in Miracles chat room we do, but in life, sometimes we're always thinking of what we're going to say next. Judge less, accept more. That is huge. That is totally Course in Miracles. Judge nothing, accept everything exactly as it is. Watch less, do more, complain less, appreciate more. Another Course in Miracles expression here, because when I'm complaining, I'm focusing on what's not right. And of course, as I start focusing on what's not right, then I get caught up in all the fear. appreciate more. I mean, A Course in Miracles tells us that God doesn't need our gratitude, but we need to embody the energy of gratitude in order to know how much we have. We have everything within us, but it's only when we're grateful for what we have do we remember who we really are. God doesn't need our gratitude. I need my gratitude in order to remember the truth about who and what I am. And then the last one here on my 7 steps to happiness, is Course in Miracles in a nutshell. Fear less, love more. I could even take that a lot deeper. Fear nothing, love everything. And going
Yes.
back to Collateral Beauty, that was the message of the movie, right, Zoma?
Absolutely, absolutely the message. I don't want to overlook what Dove and Karen are going back and forth on the Dove wrote, "What is your purpose? Only purpose has meaning." In the movie, that was the question he asked. What is your why? What is your why? That was one of the first things he asked in the movie. And then Karen wrote, "The only value of a belief is its purpose," and that's from Ken Wapnick. And then Dove wrote, "Our only purpose is healing. Everything else is a distraction." And then, based on what you said about from the seven
7
happiness
steps to happiness.
7 steps to happiness. You talk about appreciation. The Course teaches that only appreciation is an appropriate response to our brother and to ourselves, actually. Gratitude is due him. Gratitude is due you. Gratitude is due us for both our loving thoughts and our appeals for help. For both are capable of bringing love into your awareness if you perceive them truly. Karen often points out that about meeting a person where they are in the Course, and in the Course it says that God meets us as we are. As we are, all things are what they are. And again, our problem is when we think it should be different. That's really the problem. When we think it should be different, we think that it should be happening the way we think. We're trying to usurp the power of God. We're trying to coerce the universe. We're trying to coerce God. It's God, make it happen this way. I'm praying for something very specific. I'm outlining. I want to plant apples, but I want grapes to show up. I want that's the problem. When we try to coerce God. And Karen writes that full appreciation, yes, full appreciation means for everyone. And it begins, let there be peace on earth and let it begin with me. I really can't truly appreciate you unless I'm appreciating me. Seek first the kingdom is what we're taught. Seek first the kingdom. Everything, every thought. Okay, I'm looking at you through these glasses. I'm looking at you on my computer. I'm looking at you through these eyes. This is where it's all coming from. All of it, everything. And if I think there's something wrong out there, first of all, the sentence goes, if I think that there's something wrong out there, it's because I think. I think. This is why lesson 5 is so important, that I'm never upset for the reason I think. I'm upset because I'm thinking in the first place. I think that it should be different. I think it should be this. I think it should be that. And then come those other lessons up to lesson 34, which says because when I choose to see it differently, then I can see peace instead of this. One of the 7 that you said, though, okay, now I can't. It
Think
came on so
less,
fast.
feel more, frown less,
That
smile.
one, the first one. Think first and feel more. The fact is that what we feel comes from what we think. What we
Right.
feel comes from what we think. So we have to be, the Course is saying that we have to be tolerant of mind wandering.
Correct.
We have to, avoid the sleep of forgetfulness. We have to do what we can to continue to engage with God. It's our thoughts that are really doing all this. We're making it up. We are thinking our way through all this mess. We're making it all up. So what I'm feeling is coming from what I'm thinking. If I'm not feeling well, I need to look at what I'm thinking. If I'm not feeling well, regardless of what it is, what am I thinking? Karen mentioned that she's experiencing some back pain, but she's talking through it. She's talking through it because to remind herself, not just sharing with us, but to remind herself that the situation, that is what it is, but she is not her body. It doesn't stop her from loving. It doesn't stop her from caring. It doesn't stop her. She's laying down, but she's here with us. So she's letting herself get distracted. Sorry, Karen, for bringing it back up again, taking you back to that, but giving her own self an opportunity to distract herself from that. She's not her body. She's not, so that she's not focused on it. She's not. Yes, she feels it, and I understand. We've talked, and she and I, we've talked. We really talk. That's my Karen. That's my I love you for her. That's my Karen. But so I understand. What her, what the situation is, and some things we, regardless of, to talk about the magic and talk about whatever, who wears glasses, who takes a pill for blood pressure, who takes vitamins, who, all this stuff. We can all say what we don't do, but we because we believe that our body, we're taking care of our communication device. Let me say it that way, because the course does say we can't deny the body. So we have to do what we have to do to take care of it. If that means taking a pill to ease the pain, then so be it. If that means laying this way and not that, then so be it. Whatever. What was my point? What we feel comes from what we think. We have to guard our thoughts. We have to guard our thoughts. So that feel less, feel more, that kind of, or feel less, think more, however that went. It's like,
Think
actually,
less, feel more. Yeah, this isn't Course in Miracles. This is 7
but
Steps to Happiness. But I
but
see your point. The
yeah.
thinking leads to the feelings. So it's just to be aware. Yep. We are much too tolerant of mind wandering. So there is discipline involved in Course in Miracles. Thank you, Zilma. I listened to your complete talk. I think it was yesterday. And I love what you said yesterday. And I love what you're saying today. You talk about the fact that we are not our body. So if there's pains in our body, well, that's not who we are. So we can kind of let go of the pain and remember the truth of who we are is spirit, and I think that was, I got so much out of your talk. I thought that was like so empowering. And you spoke about the true meaning of empathy, which there is a chapter in my book about empathy versus sympathy. And I love that. I love what you were saying. And in A Course in Miracles, in chapter 16, it talks about true empathy. And the title is The Forgiveness of Illusions. Here, I'll read a couple sentences. To empathize does not mean to join in suffering, for that is what you must refuse to understand. And what you said is when someone else is in pain, you don't have to go down into the rabbit hole with them. You don't have to join in their suffering. In a way, as a clear channel, we need to, I guess, hold a space for them to feel their feelings, but also love them. So what we're mirroring back to them is the truth of who they are. We're not going into their feelings of victimization, because that's not supporting them on their journey. In my own life, again, I work at a nursing home right now. And a lot of times when I go into the resident's room, they're complaining about something of the body. And I don't know if this is because I have studied A Course in Miracles for so long. It might be. I know that the lady that I work with really listens to their suffering, and she says, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. But for whatever the reason, I don't, I guess acknowledge what they say, and then if they're not willing to get out of that place, I leave immediately because I don't want to get sucked down into that darkness. I don't think it does me any good, and I don't think it does them any good. And then when I see them later, if they're in a better mood, then I'll spend time with them. But I guess it's important that we don't go into the rabbit hole with other people when they're in the midst of suffering. We want to pull them up. We don't want to go down in the darkness, because that's not doing anyone any good. To empathize, to go back to the sentence that I just read, to empathy does not mean to join in suffering. It says then in the next sentence, that is the ego's interpretation of empathy and is always used to form a special relationship in which the suffering is shared. The capacity to empathize is very useful to the Holy Spirit, provided you let him use it in his way. His way is very different. He does not understand suffering and would have you teach it is not understandable. When he relates through you, he does not relate through your ego to another ego. He does not join in pain, understanding that healing pain is not accomplished by delusional attempts to enter into it and lighten it by sharing the delusion. I'm just really understanding it for myself. I don't want to go down into the rabbit hole again, to use your analogy, Zoma. I want to give them space to feel their feelings, but come from a place of love at all times. Because when I'm down in the darkness, I don't want someone to come down there with me. I want them to pull me up and help me see reality. And the only reality is love and light and beauty and joy, right?
Yes. Yes. I like what Karen put in the chat from chapter 28. Accepting the atonement for yourself means not to give support to someone's dreams of sickness and death. Now, that doesn't mean that, if you called me and you said, I'm having, a migraine or, whatever, and would you bring me some Tylenol? I'm going to go buy you some Tylenol. But when I come bring you the Tylenol, where I'm not, I'm not going to do neither of two things. I'm not trying to, I've given you what you asked for. I'm not trying to, feed you the Tylenol, tell you how many to take, tell you how often to take it, because I'm not going to be part of that with you. I'm also not going to listen but to only so much of you talk about that migraine. Either way, I can't go down in there with you, and I can't bring you up either. I really can't. All I could do, as I said, is just hold that space. I can't do either. That's not, because if you are caught up in your migraine, nothing I can say is going to matter. And we were talking about people, and Regis Reeves brought up a situation where he went to a funeral service, and he said absolutely nothing the whole time. He was friends with the person that, and talked about the wife, and he said nothing the whole time. And it was only his presence. His presence was enough. He never said a word. He didn't have to. And there are times when somebody, they'll call, and I'll just sit there, and I'll just be sitting there listening, and and later on I get a text message thanking me, for how much better they feel, because I never said anything after hello. I didn't. I'm not trying to. Because if that's the case, I'm not really being truly helpful. That's me doing that's the ego saying, oh, look at me for what I did. Yeah, I helped her feel better. I did. No, it's not even about all that. It's not about all that. I'm gonna stop talking because I see Karen's hand is up. If you want to give her the mic.
Karen?
Thank you for bringing this section up, Susan. I really love this section. And, he talks a lot about this throughout the course. He tells us in the manual for teachers in how are healing and atonement related, pretty much what I shared about accepting the atonement, but he says that it is your function to recognize for him that what he believes about himself is not the truth. It is your forgiveness that must show him this. Healing is very simple. Atonement received and offered. Having been received, it must be accepted. It is in this receiving then that the healing lies. All else must follow this single purpose. So the purpose is healing. The purpose is healing the mind and also seeing our interests as the same, like we don't see this person as separate, just like right now, he or she is seeing themselves as separate from God, believing that there's this sick body. That's the belief that I'm separate from God. We are all one, joining in that one, seeing our interest is the same, which is the goal of peace. So being like, for me, it's like, what's the most loving thing I can say right now? What's the most loving thing I can do? And of course, one more thing I just want to share that really helps me a lot is in chapter 2, he talks about the compromise approach. And he says that, how sometimes, what we do, we meet people where they are, and sometimes it might not be a high form of healing, but it's what is perfect in that moment now, because it's better to not put them in fear. We don't want to make someone fearful. We don't want to make them think that it's what they're going through is not real. Trying to find that spot. It's really, if you guys want to talk, I can put it in the chat, but I just wanted to mention that because I think it's important to, I think
Give
it's
me a
important.
piece, Karen. Give me a piece of it. I'll find it.
It's in
I'm there now.
chapter
Where?
2. It's in
What's it?
chapter
What's it
2,
say?
and it's in the compromise approach. And he says that, you just don't want, the goal is, you don't, is not fear. The goal is not fear, so we don't want fear as the result. We don't want them to be afraid. We don't want them to feel alone or more separate. So for me, it's meeting them where they are, but not feeding into it, like
Okay.
having, yes, the empathy, but not like what you're doing, Susan, with where you work, because you're around it all the time, but still being the most loving person you can be, but knowing when to walk away, but not denying them their experience.
I put it in the chat, and I saved the chat, by the way, in case Susan. I actually saved this chat, so I can go back and reference everything that. Dove had mentioned earlier, and didn't want that to get by either. That it takes determination. That okay, I went back too far. He had mentioned that A Course in Miracles is a discipline. It is a discipline, and it takes determination. Yes, because the mind wants distraction. It wants entertainment. Yeah, we get in, we get caught up in other stuff. We want it's just the avoidance approach. Like yeah, I can relate to that, and we relate to it most in that area of our life that we don't want to deal with. We try to avoid it. All of a sudden, oh, I don't feel like it. Oh, I'm tired. Oh, I think I'll go get something to eat. Oh, I think I'll go to the store. We try to avoid that feeling. We try to avoid doing that thing, that whatever that thing is for each of us, because it's different for each of us, that thing that we consider to be a problem. We try to avoid it. Entertainment. I like that one, Doug.
I love what both of you said. It's what Karen said, to meet people where they are at, because we can't talk them out of their fear. I remember Bill Thetford never gave anyone advice, co-scribe of A Course in Miracles. Bill Thetford never gave anyone advice. We can't talk people out of their fear. We want to meet them where they're at, but we don't want to go down into the rabbit hole with them. We don't want to go down into their fear with them. And I know sometimes when I'm like a people pleaser. I know that's a character defect, something that I've always had. I'm a people pleaser. So if I'm just listening to someone go into their grievances, in a long-term kind of way, and I'm just sitting there listening to them like complain about the fact that they're a victim, that they have all these grievances, that this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong, this is what's wrong. It's like they bring me down into the rabbit hole with them, and I just feel horrible. And I know that's not of God. That's my ego being a people pleaser because I don't want to offend them. So I guess one thing I'm learning is I have to take care of myself, because if I don't take care of myself, I have nothing to give anyone else anyway. So now sometimes if I know the conversation is going to go in the wrong direction, I need to either change it or leave. because two people, down in that place of darkness doesn't do anyone any good. So I think that's a important lesson for me to be aware of. And then the other thing that I wanted to comment on was Zulma talking about how the Reverend, I can't remember his last name, went to a funeral and he didn't say anything. He just was present,
Yes.
and I think we all have a different vibratory frequency. So if my frequency is at a high level and I'm coming from a place of love, the words don't matter. Whoever I'm with is going to be able to sense my frequency, and my presence will be enough. And I love that story because we don't remember, most of the time we don't remember what people say. What we remember is how they make us feel. So
Yes.
words in itself are meaningless. Words are simply a communication tool. So, but people remember how they make us feel. And when we can just focus on love, our presence is always enough.
Yes. I'm going to tell Regis that you called him Reverend. I can't wait to tell him that.
Oh, okay. Regis,
Yeah, I
Reverend.
say Regis rhymes with Jesus, Regis rhymes with Jesus. Yeah, our Reverend Regis. There we go. I'm
So he's
finished with
not a
that.
reverend. He's not
Yeah,
a reverend.
no, he's revered. He is
Oh,
revered by us
okay.
all.
Okay.
We
Regis,
revere him
Regis.
as we revere each other because only appreciation is the appropriate response. Gratitude is due. Karen's hand is up again. I'm going to stop talking. Oh, she put it down.
Oh,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you, Susan. I love what you just shared. And it is always about coming from a place of love for me too. And I found the part, Juma, you were on the same section, but there's a different part where he talks about this is what really is for me being truly helpful. And this to me is the most loving thing to do. And I just absolutely, this has helped me for myself,
Where?
dealing with myself, my own sickness, and with others. It's paragraph 5 in chapter 2, healing as a release from fear. The value of the atonement does not lie in the manner in which it is expressed. In fact, if it is used truly, it will inevitably be expressed in whatever way is most helpful to the receiver. This means that a miracle to attain its full efficacy must be expressed in a language that the recipient can understand
Mm,
without fear.
Mhm.
mm,
This does not necessarily mean that this is the highest level of communication of which he is capable. It does mean, however, that it is the highest level of communication of which he is capable now. The whole aim of the miracle is to raise the level of communication, not to lower it by increasing fear. And let me tell you, this has helped me so much with myself and others. And the reason I really love this so much because it happened to me early on. I shared this, I think, yesterday. Um, Early on, when I first came around, I was talking to this one course student that was much, more experienced in the course than I was about my knee problems. And he said, "Oh, it's just an illusion. It's not real." And I'm like, I couldn't deal with that. Like that was not helpful for me at that time. Saying that to me was not helpful. So this is when we learn asking through Holy Spirit, what's the most helpful thing I can say right now? Because right now, they're in fear. I don't want to increase their fear. That's all. Thank you.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for quoting that. I kind of have that memorized. This is the highest level of communication in which they are capable now. Yeah, very, very beautifully quoted. Thank you. Thank you. So it's 2:05. I believe someone else is coming in pretty soon. My time is over. I am so grateful that Zulma and Karen and Dove were here with me today. I love that. I learned so much from sharing. I love you all. Thank you. Thank you. And
Unlovable.
I will return the microphone to Lynn. Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. This has been an excellent conversation and just